Our pipe television was a little bit different from what the government wanted us to do. They were taking a raw signal from Belfast onto an aerial and down into your set. But Phoenix done it a different way. They introduced microwave. They received a signal coming from Black Mountain in Belfast up on the Tree Rock Mountain and then transfer the signal down to a receiver here on the top of McLaughlin's butcher shop. And it was amazing, the signal that came in. It was pure and clean. It was so good in point of fact that when the BBC got to hear about it, one of their big engineers came over to have a look at this and said, "You're getting a better signal here in Ballyfermot than we're getting in London." Well, as you know, Ballyfermot came into being in 1948. And like all developing communities, things began to happen. And during the 50s, of course, there was the introduction of television from Belfast to the BBC, and then ITV came on the line. Now, some of us had aerials up at that time, which was a fairly good picture for considering the distance and that. But then as time went on, more people acquired televisions and they began to be a bit more choosy. And out of that, of course, relay companies developed.
Ballyfermot expressed a great interest in receiving cable. Nobody was interested in Ballyfermot because it was too hard to get signals to it. It wasn't very high. Even with an aerial, a 200-foot aerial in Ballyfermot, you would still have difficulty with getting a quality of signal. So Nigel saw that if we could bring a microwave link feed from Tree Rock to Ballyfermot, then there was a great possibility of having a quality feed in there, low risk of amplifier failure. So we did a demonstration in Ballyfermot in Malloy's had an office above the bookie shop there, and we did a presentation as to what the signal quality would be there, and the signals were superb. The Streets Committee there attended that meeting and they said, "We want those signals and we want Phoenix Relays to be the provider."
It was just unbelievable, the difference in the picture. It was lifelike. You could see depth in the picture. And of course, it was illegal. So what we done was we invited all of the TDs and everybody of prominence in Ballyfermot, including the police, to see this experiment. And of course, when everybody saw this, they said, "We must have that, that's great."
Well, I'm the Ballyfermot bullfrog, baby, and I'm gonna leap all over you. Yes, I'm the Ballyfermot bullfrog, baby, and I'm gonna leap all over you. You'll keep on coming back for more. I can jump from here to Inchicore.
It was illegal to use micro at that stage. So some of us were brought to court, and of course they didn't understand it. And then of course we were away with it. The case was thrown out. And then it came that we talked to Jerry Fitzgerald and the management of Phoenix Relays to install a radio system on the pipe, using the pipe. And they said, "Why not go for television?" And that we did. So there again we did another hurl across, and we set into negotiations with the Department of Post and Telegraphs, and they were very much against it because of the fact RTE had the only licence in the country to broadcast open television. But we got eventually a meeting with the then Minister for Post and Telegraphs, Conor Cruz O'Brien, and of course the senior civil servant, in fact the Secretary of the Department, Miss Meehan, was very much against it. So a battle royal took place, but we negotiated. We were pretty good at it at that stage. We'd learned how to negotiate and lay out our case, and eventually we convinced the minister that we should have a licence. And there were 2 licences issued in this country. One was for RTA, quite rightly, and one was for Ballyfermot Television.
During that early period, Phoenix Relays approached BCA about the possibility of community television, and of course it was an ideal opportunity and the BCA jumped at it. So from there we started working with Phoenix Relays, producing programmes for our broadcast. It started, I think, during the first community week. It went out maybe 1974. They had an outdoor broadcast unit and they filmed the opening parade. It was amazing, like the participation by people. We had President Childers came along to open the parade, and it was very colourful. So Phoenix Relays recorded all that, and then later on we were able to broadcast it, and that was the first programme that went out on Ballyfermot Television.
We felt, that we did need to give something back to the community as well. Like particularly in Ballyfermot, where the Streets Committee were hugely involved out there. It was really a community there. And like the community were after us as well. They were putting pressure on us. I remember John Sweeney particularly. John Sweeney was an amazing man. Like he would be on the case. He used to come into that office regularly. That was his time. As I don't know, Seneca said, time, everybody, the poorest man, the richest man, has been given time in equal value. The most important thing, it's how you use that time, is what makes you different. And like those people gave of their time, unflinchingly, unselfishly, and they deserve something in return for that. And when we were cabling in Ballyfermot, if we had any issues came up with people who needed to be convinced that they needed this, those people brought us through Ballyfermot. They nearly did the canvas for us in Ballyfermot. So we owed them something as well.
I was the main producer of the programme, but it was a very easy job because there were so many people involved. Ballyfermot was alive at the time, and it was a very exciting time, I think, to be involved in the community as a young person. And every week I had to kind of disappoint people and say, sorry, can't include you today. It was quite restrictive in that we only had the one studio and it all had to happen in 2 hours, but it was very good. We had a great man, Willie Kane, from Ballyfermot Parade, who was involved in the whole area of entertainment, and he had brilliant contacts with the likes of Christy Moore, Sonny Knowles, Alvin Stardust, Brendan Grace, Red Hurley. Every week Willie would produce a great musician, and of course the word would get out in advance that such and such a person's coming to Ballyfermot Television. And from early on that afternoon we'd have queues of people outside where we were recording from the Phoenix Relays office on Ballyfermot Road. People wanted to meet the stars and get their autographs and things like that.
In the city of Chicago, as the evening shadows fall, there are people dreaming of the hills of Donegal.
They supported this concept as well. Like obviously promoting, advertising is advertising. And like if an artist could come along, like we had 40,000 subscribers, which could have been, 160,000 viewers. So like where did you get that kind of audience except with RTE? And if you went to RTE, you were tied up for a day with rehearsals and getting things organised, so you lost the day. Like if Brendan Grace or Christy came along, like they were in there for 10 minutes and they were gone. So they could be on the way to a gig and be able to perform and do it, and they got that additional promotion. But I think a lot of these guys too felt like they wanted to be involved in community activity. They felt they were giving something back as well. And then young kids wanted to see these people and see these stars. So it was promotion, but I think there was a little bit more to it than that. I think there was a feeling of doing something for the community.
Many met with fortune, many met with fame, many more knew hardship, died working on the plains. They spread throughout the nation, they rode the railroad cars, they brought their songs and music to ease their lonely hearts. In the city of Chicago, as the evening shadows fall, there are people dreaming.
amazing people from Ballyfermot came forward, wanting to be presenters, wanting to do research, and it was all local people. The talent was amazing. From the kind of link man, John Hammond, who was from Carna Road, a young man, he was involved in the arts workshop as well, but he was just a natural. And we had people from the Community Information Centre who did a Know Your Rights section. And we would have people from outside Ballyfermot who would come into, we had people from the trade unions who would do a slot, we had local doctors, we had local women talking about maybe cookery, recipes, we had sport, a huge variety of content in the programmes, and it worked very well.
And here we are now in the main control room, and basically what happens here is that we have a monitor for each camera, and from the monitor we decide which shot we're going to take and the actual shot that you see. At the moment we have Anne in the studio.
Standing by in studio.
And she is ready with her shopping basket.
And
so he's going to take it now.
4, 3, 2, 1, cue Anne.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Well, now you know how it's done.
What we found was the prices were slipping up all the time. And slipped up and slipped up. So I used to go in and the manager was very abrupt, would treat me like a lump of dirt actually. And I query everything. Oh yeah, and he was very abrupt. Like, how dare you? The audacity of you to come in here and query stuff, query prices, and I wrote everything down. And then they said to me, you can't come in here with a pen and paper and things down. So I didn't say anything. Went into Superquinn, of course they're too busy, they wouldn't see you writing anything down. It could be your shopping thing over in Walkinstown. And I went, now at the time, no cars, you'd have to get a bus over to Walkinstown, but people did it. And whatever, anyway, so we've discovered then, I think there was another supermarket on the Ballyfermot Road at the time. And we went round the three of them, so there was whoever threw me out, but didn't I go back on the telly?
But first, our new consumer news desk with Anne McStay.
Good afternoon. And this week Ballyfermot Community Television is bringing you a new consumer spot. And this week we concentrated on the 3 major supermarkets in Ballyfermot. That's Quinsworth, Londis and Tesco. Now we just for this week picked 16 items of the basic foodstuffs that are used every day in our households.
It was fantastic. I was like, your man told me to go, who the hell did you think we were taking it? And I wasn't allowed to take that. This was Quinsworth. And then we went over to Superquinn, and if I asked the manager anything at Superquinn, you got an abrupt answer. Oh, I said, the people who keep them going pay their wages. I was getting really brave now. I was getting a bit brave because I was getting a terrific response. And people were saying, Jesus, well done. Feckin' bees, and they're taking them prices, they're feckin' prices that they're charging and all that. So I was confident in that, you know what I mean? I was kind of getting a little bit of confidence. And so we went on, and then, by God, was I treated like the Royal Duchess of Kent. Talk about Princess Di. Come on in, we have this, now we have this special offer today, and we did this. What happened then was, they began to put on special offers. Now, not 2 for the price of 1, but there were special offers. This week, the sugar's down at 2 pence or 3 pence, which is a lot then. Or this week, the potatoes are down, or this week, veggies are down, or whatever. And it was absolutely, that was the best ever. That was fantastic. And the women went into the shops and it all changed. And they were greeted at the doors. Now that really actually happened from the community television. That'll just tell you how powerful it can be and how powerful a medium it is.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to our 2nd week of the shopping basket. And this week I concentrated very much on the 2 major supermarkets, Quinsworth.
But like all Ballyfermot people, it takes very little then to throw you back down again, you know yourself. But I knew people were interested, and I knew people in Ballyfermot were delighted. And I knew I used to collect the kids at the school and think, Jesus, that was great. Oh, I couldn't get over your man. I was delighted to say that about that old scut up there in Superquinn. Now this is what I got at. I couldn't get home from school with the kids.
Well, Nell, you have been seen over the years as a champion for the cause of women in a lot of areas. And I have often seen, you have never really considered politics. Have you never thought of entering the political arena? And do you think you could be more effective inside rather than outside? Or do you think you're more effective outside?
I think, as Maureen Johnson once said in an early meeting of the women's movement, the price of bread is political. I think women are among the most highly politicised group of people in this country. I think I am political morning, noon and night. I'm political when I wake up in the morning and my life is dominated by the bank manager or by the priest, by the judge in the Kerry baby's case. Everything they say and my reactions to it, life is political. The politics that you're talking about, where you go into Dáil Éireann and your foot is nailed to the seat by Charlie Haughey, who says you'll say what I say and think what I think, or by Gareth Fitzgerald, who will tell people like Nuala Fennell and Gemma Hussey, don't open your mouth on women's issues, for example, unemployment or contraception. No, I wouldn't particularly like a life like that. I think in Dáil Éireann your mouth can be sewed up.
And you, Nuala, would you feel similar?
Well, which is not to say that I wouldn't love to go in there and shout and roar and tell a few truths.
And read your constituents' letters. Yeah. I think that I have a tiny but a small bit of influence, which I probably don't deserve, but I have a small bit of influence because about 250,000 households watch the women's programme, and I have my 1/6 of an input into what we do and what way do we do it. I have a little bit of influence. If I was in the Dáil, I think I'd have actual power. Because, like, I can't get over the Dáil how weak-kneed and lily-livered 166 human beings with only one life to live actually managed to be. But everything I see of parliamentary politics in Ireland just makes me more and more cynical about it. I wouldn't demean myself to enter the Dáil if they shot me in there.
But surely that suits the politicians sometimes, if you have a woman that has the courage or the guts to go forward and represent women, which would be topical women's issues. That would suit them. That type of an attitude would suit them very well.
It does, unfortunately, suit them very well.
No, because you go into the door and speak to 166 men whose first reaction is to say, sure, somebody out there might hear us and the bishop might have us about with the crozier. You can either speak to those few or you can go out and move around and speak to the many in meetings outside. And I think one of the most powerful things the women's movement has done in this country is they have allowed women to speak and to say the taboo words, name the taboo subjects. And it's the echoes from our voices outside that are heard within the Dáil.
But
that's
can
much
I
more
just say
powerful to me than sitting there on a back bench.
You know, that I mightn't say, except that I feel that I'm talking to 8,500 people, which is a very coherent group, and I think the women might think I'm nuts, but I don't want to work with 164 men. I'm not interested in arguing with men anymore. I don't believe you can get through to men over the age of about 40. I honest to God think that they're completely conditioned. My whole hope and my interest in life is women, the women of Ireland.
Nuala French, beautiful person, and I can't remember what she spoke about, to tell you the truth, at the time, but it was quite good. And then Nell McCaffrey, they were quite good. Now, I was very nervous because, I mean, these people are intellectuals. I haven't got that I didn't have that intellectual capacity, and I had to do my own questions. But I knew them, but that didn't make it any easier, and I was trying to... I wasn't great now at that. I don't think I was great on the interviews, but however, they did them, and they would help me more than I would have helped them. But that went down very well. And then I said, you'll have to say that. Good night now, sisters.
Jim Mitchell. At the moment. Government Minister, this has been a government decision, certainly a Department of Education decision, not to continue down, to stick with the agreement. And the Minister has reviewed this on 2 occasions. And there's been a number of protests, campaigns.
My brother was very much an innovator, and he liked to do things, new things, and to try out new things. But he also represented a constituency that needed new ideas and new investment and opportunity. And I think these two things married themselves in the possibility for the Ballyfermot community television, and he happened to be the minister in situ at the time. There had been the earlier experience, but he was actually the local minister and he saw this opportunity. And there were some very good people involved at that time. Ironically, one of my other brothers, absolutely coincidentally, was involved in pipe television, and Peter. In fact, when we started in politics first, Peter was better known than Jim, or Jimmy as we always called him. Because Peter played football for St. Pat's, and when we started out first, people used to say, is he Peter Mitchell's brother? But Peter was general manager with the Phoenix Relays. Now, I don't know whether that was exactly at the same period or not, but the reason that my brother was disposed to Ballyfermot was because he was the local TD and was hugely involved there. I mean, he was president of Ballyfermot United. You couldn't drive around the roundabout in Ballyfermot at election time. Every second house had a big poster on for him. So it was really a stronghold for him, and he was very much involved in the community. He had a clinic over the butcher shop, Payne's, and then he had a clinic up in the Kylemore Community Centre. So it was an area he knew firsthand, and he knew the quality of the people and the level of Ballyfermot activism. And I think you'll see that's still evident in Ballyfermot Community Radio today, and in all of the various organisations that are going on right up to and including Cherry Orchard and things like the Equine Centre.
You think Ballyfermot television is adding to people's happiness, do you?
I certainly think it is. It certainly, I think it's a wonderful experience, a wonderful example of the sort of community spirit that Ballyfermot is, and what can be done by willing people with very little resources, what can be achieved. And you know, there's a lesson there for us in many aspects of national life. You hear a lot of talk about recession and problems, when in fact we all know the problems today are much less acute than we were younger. People talk themselves into problems, but if there was that same spirit in tackling all our problems that there is in tackling and creating Ballyfermot television and creating the community spirit that exists in Ballyfermot, I don't think we'd have any problems in this country, because we have a great little country.
'Twas in the merry month of May, and from me home I started, left with the girls at home, all nearly broken hearted, saluted father dear, kissed me darling mother, then down the pint of beer, tears and grief to smother, then offered to reap at the corn and me, for I was born, cut the stout blackthorn to banish ghosts, and goblins and brand new pair of brogues, up the lap of the bog and fighting all the dogs on the rocky road to Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hump the hare and turn her down the rocky road, and all the ways to Dublin, whack for London, bone and Gardick's night, her rested limb so weary, rose and played daylight, next morning bright and early, then took us up with the pure, beat me heart from shrinking, that's the paddy's pure, when there he's up for drink, see the lassie smile, laughing all of the while, at me curious style, protect your heartily on the sun, asked me if I was hired, wages I required, I was almost hired, double the rocky road to Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hump the hare and turn her down the rocky road, and all the ways to Dublin, whack for Dublin, Dublin extra right, and I thought that such a pity to be so in the play.
The maestro says it's Mozart. That's a great song there. That's Leonard Cohen from his album The Future, and a song called Waiting for a Miracle. This is West Dublin Access Radio 96 FM, Frank Phelan on Rock and Blues. Tommy Morrison and Colin Keaton strolled up our road one day, and I harangued him, said, listen, like you as I use, gives a job, I can do that, and I heard nothing. And then he said, if you want to come down, if you're interested, and have a look at his recording. And I went down to the senior college as it was then, and saw Anne McStay doing her piece. There was a band recorder, and I thought, this is magnificent. Then they were looking for a sports presenter, and they said it on air, and I said, God, that's terrible. I was down there on Wednesday. They said nothing to me. And then they called up to the house and said, listen, if you're interested, do you want to do the sports? Now, I knew nothing about sports.
Now joining us for his debut on Bcatv, our new and shining sportsman, Frank Phelan.
Soccer in the Athletic Union League. Cole Park United Saturday team saw no action last weekend due to the bad weather.
I still remember to this day, there was like a cheer when I finished my first piece, because I got through about 4 pages of sports stuff and stumbled on the last little paragraph, and I thought I made a mess here, and then a cheer went up, which kind of confused me. I think they obviously thought this is going to take 5 or 6 hours to do this, young fella, so it turned out all right.
They sent ESB crashing out of the Dublin Championships Cup with a 31-52 scoreline, and in the league, Lourdes suffered a similar fate, losing 44 points to 55. Well, that's about all the sports for this week. If you have any sporting information, or you'd like us to mention any sporting event that you're involved in, you can drop a line to the Ballyfermot Library, and we'll certainly do our best.
Thanks very much, Frank. It's nice to see you're in your confirmation suit and tie this week.
And I'm Liam Nolan, and I've got some sports results for you. First, Athletic Union League Premier, Cole Park 0, Eastwall 2.
Watching Liam Nolan in that short space of time was a big learning thing for me. He did things like he underlined the script. As a guest presenter, we gave him some sports results to read out. He read through first, and he'd underline certain words, and he'd ask about pronunciations of, you know, club names and that kind of thing, so that he was saying the name of the place right. He didn't offend anybody in the area and that kind of thing. And also, just the thing of his approach was, even though this was like a small local community television, he was there and he applied all the usual standards that he applies to RTE, and that was a great kind of almost a compliment to the station that he
approached it in that way. One thing, I asked him a question about the most significant moment that he you know, the usual cliched question, what was the most significant moment in his broadcasting career? Expecting some sort of happy highlight and, you know, a World Cup final or something like that. And he immediately referred to the 1972 Olympic massacre in Munich. And I had no background of that whatsoever. And I remember just saying, oh, that must have been terrible. And watching it afterwards, I realised the importance of knowing beyond the context of the parameters, you know, of what you're actually reporting on. And I also learned from watching him as well and listening to him. He did make another comment about one of his great insights was the fact that he had played rugby and knew what it was like. He used the phrase to get your thumbs kicked back. And so he taught me in that very short space of time a knowledge of your subject and a knowledge beyond your subject.
Of the sports facilities there. Well done, Ballyfermot.
Thank you, Liam, and well done yourself. You have a future ahead of you, that's for sure.
I think if I take it seriously, I might get a job.
Oh, you might, certainly. Now, I know you've actually worked in RTE, and everybody knows, in the sports department. That's for a number of years now. What has been, say, the most historic or memorable occasion or sporting event that you've covered?
I suppose the most dramatic in a way was probably the 1972 Olympic Championships. Not only because it was a remarkable place to hold them, which was on a field that had a lot of bad memories, wartime memories. Yeah. This was in Munich, but the appalling thing of seeing the men being killed, lying on your belly and looking at terrorists with guns in their hands and knowing that you're reporting not on sport at this particular moment, but on an obscene act.
Yes, certainly a frightening experience. Do you have any preference for a particular sport that you prefer covering?
There were staff members from the Bank of Ireland, and I remember they trying to set up, again, trying to get you to be funny in that on camera. And again, I was young, trying to work on my delivery. We tried to do a joke about, you know, talking to members of staff, had any funny stories, and one staff member told this joke about someone had no identification trying to withdraw money, and she said, can you get any identification? She went down to the end of the queue and brought her friend up and said, Maisie, tell her what my name is.
Ballyfermot United! Well, I'm a lucky man tonight. Two lovely ladies from Bank of Ireland, released from their cage. Siobhan, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
I'm fine. Do you follow football at all?
Slightly.
Slightly?
Yeah.
What do you know about Cherry Orchard and them winning the FAI Junior
Well,
Cup?
I know they won 2-1 as far as I remember, and they beat St Kevin's, and they're a wonderful team. Loads of well-built men.
Have you gone to see them? Loads of well-built men. They like that. Have you gone to see them at all?
Not lately, no.
Right. Marcella, thanks very much. Marcella, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
You've just joined Bank of Ireland.
That's right, yeah.
Has Siobhan been training you in?
She has been filling me in on the local team, and I wish to offer my congratulations to the team. Did very well.
What's the job like starting off? Are you enjoying it in Ballyfermot?
Immensely, yes.
Good time?
Great time.
Do you like the people?
People are very nice.
Yeah.
And I hope to stay there for a while.
Right.
Have to look after the manager.
Oh yes, the manager. Hey, will you have to hold?
Right, now so we have everybody here, that's a lovely group. Okay, here we go. Once more. Come on. What about again? Right, again.
Lads in good form. And the crack was 90 in Chapel Lizard, and that's just some of the kind of stuff that we can produce at Bcatv when we have our own outside broadcast camera.
Your face is white as snow. Your hair the color of the earth. The heart that beats so strong. The day that turns so soon to dawn.
now to make a programme, you know, the number of people who are involved there, to read the news now, there has to be 3 people if you go from one to the other to the other. You know, now the interviewer, now they're I don't know what they call them now, but they're doing interviews and that. But probably part of the problem is, like, we have the same old faces on RT, we have the same old faces on radio, the same people are interviewed. Like, we were younger then, we were in our 30s then. We were enthusiastic. The people who came to the shows were younger. You know, what this has to be done is, it has to be handed over to the younger people. Like community television, young people have embraced technology. Like with texting, with twittering, Facebook, Bebo, you name it. You know, that all those, they're huge technologies now. MySpace, YouTube, like YouTube. Like they're making videos of themselves, putting them up there on YouTube. Like they'd love to be doing that. Like give a couple of kids a camera and say, go off and make a programme about your people. It's not about studios anymore, or that kind of formal type of TV. You know, put out 20 cameras into a community, not highbrow cameras. You know, let them go off. You make a programme here, go to a school, you make a programme, and we'll put it out on TV. You'll get lots of content.
I don't look at afternoon programmes. I never liked Show or O'Shea. I liked the 2 people, very nice. But they're not getting into the grip of it. They don't seem to know what the people want. And they're playing to a different audience all the time. But they're not gripping the communities, I can tell you that much. And I'll affect that, turn it off, turn it over. Now Fair City will get them. Because they think this is them, you know. The like of Fair City is running very well, that's it. But things like that. But I just feel that there's not because, now we were very successful, but don't forget we were red raw and we were plunged into this. And what they were saying was in Phoenix, just be yourselves. Just be yourself. Just be the way you speak to your neighbour in the morning. How are you? How's it going on? Just be yourselves. That's all they wanted. So I was saying, you don't have to put on anything. That's where we go wrong. People putting on a show and trying to make it. No, you have to be yourself. You have to be, and you have to show. What we showed there was the communities by the response that we got. We definitely helped the communities by the response that we got.
To me, it's how they're structured and how they're organised is the key to success. And it's like every community organisation, not just television. If you put professionals in, and they're, you know, they haven't got that kind of contact on the ground with the community, or no kind of concept of how to involve people, it's not going to work. But if you had local people working with, you know, technical crews or whatever, and going out there and getting people, you'd find that people would become involved. And I would think now again there is a need for local community television, and I think people would engage with it and support it.
We take pride in the fact that we've done the right thing at the right time. If we were going to get it good, we wanted it good and we wanted the best, and we got the best. And I think we were pioneers in actually opening up the country to the advances of television. It was a great help to us, and it's a great help to the country, because of the fact you cannot communicate in a better way than through television and radio. It's the only way. When people hear or see what's going on, I mean, our own Joe Duffy is proof for that argument. The whole country listens to Joe, and they take more heed of Joe than they take of some of our leading politicians. In fact, they believe what they hear and see on the television.